Good morning. So yesterday we were talking about this information flow diagram. So we considered a problem where we looked at the information flow diagram for an electric furnace. So I think this was the problem where you've got a material which is to be heated or heat treated or whatever. So you have heaters, then you have got this wall material and insulation, and so I asked you to draw an information flow diagram for the furnace without having to go through all the equations. Just identify the various blocks, various components of the system, and then using arrow marks I asked you to identify the heat transfer processes which are taking place. So there were some issues in yesterday's class, so we will correct it, we will have the correct or the corrected information flow diagram. Please let me know if this is fine. So I think there are two basic problems. So the heater to wall, the heater to the material, okay, the heater to the material, you can have radiation, right, you can have radiation, and since all bodies above 0 Kelvin radiate heat, radiation should always be indicated by a two-way arrow. Radiation will cease only if something approaches 0 Kelvin. Unfortunately 0 Kelvin has not been reached, and 0 Kelvin is reached we will have other problems, like we cannot define properties. Insulation to ambient. Yeah, but that is ultimately going out, but you can take it back, there is no problem. But generally the ambient is to indicate that nothing is coming back. When it is coming back, so that means suppose you are considering a satellite or something, then solar radiation or cosmic radiation coming, it will indicate that. I think without any loss of generality we can say that this is alright. Wall to insulation is only conduction, right. So we indicate a one-way arrow, and then there is convection and radiation from the insulation to the ambient. So whenever you design an insulation system there are other issues. For example, when you are carrying hot water or steam in a pipe, there are some regulations. When you design the insulation system, the outside temperature should not exceed more than 60 degrees or 65 degrees. That is an industrial standard, because if somebody goes and touches, then he will get scalded or burnt and so on. So you fix the outside temperature 65, then you turn around and calculate what will be the insulation thickness, and if you decide on a particular type of material, and then there is an optimization which is possible for various values of thickness of the material. For various types of material you can work out the insulation. Some materials are banned, for example asbestos is carcinogenic and so on. So there are lots of issues which will be outside engineering when you finally decide on what is the appropriate system you want to use. Are you getting the point? Now we will proceed with our successive substitution, but I will first dictate the problem, you take it down, and then I will show the same problem on the PowerPoint, you start working, and I will also work it out on the board, so that we are able to converge on a particular solution. Problem number 6, system simulation. Consider an electrically heated wire of emissivity 0.6. Consider an electrically heated wire of emissivity 0.6 full stop. Under steady state conditions, consider an electrically heated wire of emissivity 0.6. Under steady state conditions, the energy input to the wire, under steady state conditions, the energy input to the wire is 1000 watts per meter squared. Under steady state conditions, the energy input to the wire is 1000 watts per meter square of surface area of the wire. The energy input to the wire is 1000 watts per meter square of surface area of the wire, and the heat transfer coefficient to the ambient is, the heat transfer to the ambient is 10 watts per meter square per Kelvin, 10 watts per meter square per Kelvin. The ambient temperature is 300 Kelvin. The ambient temperature is 300 Kelvin. 1. What is the energy equation governing the steady state temperature of the wire? 1. What is the energy equation governing the steady state temperature of the wire? What is the energy equation governing the steady state temperature of the wire? B or 2. Using the method of successive substitution, determine the steady state temperature of the wire. Okay. So people who have not been able to follow this, or people who came late, whatever dictated now has been put up on PowerPoint for the sake of completeness. I have added one more part, decide on appropriate stopping criterion. So the critical data are, it is losing heat by both convection and radiation, surface MCT is given, H is given, surface area is not required because I have given power density as watts per meter square. So first draw a sketch, there is no need to draw an information flow diagram. If you want you can, it is only a single component, it is not very difficult. You can go ahead and draw the information flow diagram or a sketch of the system, indicate all the heat transfer processes which are taking place, write down the governing equation and then start solving. Okay. Okay, I identified the two physical processes, heat transfer by convection, radiation. The data is given, the heat flux is 1000 watts per meter square, emissivity is 0.6, this is the wire, and the ambient data, T infinity is 300 Kelvin, heat transfer coefficient between the wire and the ambient is 10 watts per meter square per Kelvin. So what is the solution to the first part? What is the governing equation? Q equal to HA delta T. Okay, H. When you write an equation like this, what are the inherent assumptions in that? What are the inherent assumptions? How could you just write it like that? Steady state is all right. Okay, steady state number 1. Then Vinay,
Uniform wire temperature.
wire?
The wire has uniform temperature.
No temperature gradients within the wire, which is not really correct, because it is generating heat at the rate of so many watts per meter square. So where will the wire be the hottest? Center, but we are not considering all that. That is not central, because this is a problem on successive substitution. We are not getting into a heat transfer. We are not getting into a heat transfer debate. Okay, no temperature gradients within the wire. Anything else? What about the radiation?
Emissivity is one of the surroundings.
Emissivity of the surroundings is 1. That is how you get this. The emissivity of the surroundings, that is the surroundings. The ambient is considered to be a black body at T infinity. Okay. The most important thing is, the other most important thing is, watch carefully. The ambient temperature for free convection is the same as the ambient temperature for surface radiation. Oftentimes, without realizing, we just take this for granted. It is possible that in a room like this you may have a T infinity for the convection, but because of reflectors and all these things you may have a different surrounding temperature in so far as radiation is concerned. But generally, unless otherwise stated, the T infinity for radiation can be considered to be the T infinity for convection. This is not always true. Okay. So already I have written this, ambient is a black body at T infinity. Huh? You have epsilon term. That's so if you learned heat transfer properly, you will know why that epsilon is coming, and epsilon is only of the body. What is your doubt? Huh? There is no epsilon. That epsilon is only for the epsilon is only for the body. People who have taken my conduction and radiation course, I spent an hour or half an hour or so in explaining how this formula, why this formula is the most abused formula in heat transfer. Simply people say, oh, radiation, oh, epsilon sigma T to the power of 4 minus. I derive this from first principles using a 2-body enclosure, and I prove in my class, in my conduction radiation class, that so many assumptions are there. So I don't have the time now. We are also live on this thing, but if you want I can show it to you at the end of the class. Okay, so you have to use a 2-body enclosure. You can just show by simple physics, so that epsilon is equal to 1. His doubt is, since epsilon is outside the bracket, he is having a problem whether there is an epsilon of the surroundings also. There is no epsilon in so far as the surroundings is concerned. See, this problem can be solved either using the network theory or using what is a radiosity irradiation method. I teach only the radiosity irradiation method. Using the radiosity irradiation method, in 15 minutes you can show that this is the formula you get for a small body in a large enclosure. Alright. Now go ahead and knowing full well what the assumptions are, go ahead and start doing the iteration. Serial number Ti, instead of Tw you can just take it as T, Ti, Ti plus 1, Ti plus 1 minus Ti whole square. Okay, that is the error criterion. Decide on an appropriate stopping criterion, and I can tell you that 2 types of information flow diagram are possible, and in one of the information flow diagrams the solution will diverge. Some of you will tell me, sir, it is not converging. Then you will have to turn around and use the other information flow diagram. Okay, please start. So if you recall, we are still trying to study system simulation. I told you that I will teach you system simulation by looking at 2 or 3 techniques to solve a system of nonlinear algebraic equations. We started with the method of successive substitution. Yesterday's class we started with a simple mathematical problem x equal to 2 sin x. Now we proceeded to a problem in thermal systems, or more specifically a problem in heat transfer which has got one component. After you finish, as soon as you finish this, we will go to a thermal system, I mean a fluid thermal system with 2 components. Okay. So that will reinforce the your understanding of this method of successive substitution. Okay. Now, how do you want to so what do you want the algorithm to be? I just is it okay? Or is this correct? But let me guarantee you that one of the 2 algorithms will fail. Negative. Yeah, Deepak is having trouble. Vinay, are you having trouble? It is a highly nonlinear problem. Why is it not linear? Right side you got t to the power of 4. Radiation is highly nonlinear. I do not think you have solved problems like this in a heat transfer course, or it is very unstable. Okay. So one of the 2 algorithms will cup. We will not investigate why one of the 2 algorithms is not working and so on, but suffice it would to say that because of t to the power of 4, one of the 2 algorithms will not work. So because the errors will propagate. But you know that it is a physical problem, a wire is cooling, it has got emissivity, there is natural convection, there is convection and radiation. So it has to attain a physical temperature. If at all you get negative temperature, it is not because the physics 1000 watts per meter square is a reasonable flux, emissivity is reasonable, ambient temperature is reasonable, H is reasonable, therefore you should get a reasonable temperature as the answer. If you get an unphysical solution, that means the problem is not with the physics, but the problem is with your algorithm. Okay. So we can say that this is A, this is B. Okay, Deepak, which one fails? First one fails? Second one fails. Second one fails. Okay. So let me. So people already started. I think I want you to try both. You will realize that. No, why you are smiling? It's not a painful problem. So you can very well realize that even one component is not so simple as you thought. Suppose I have a 2 component system. If it is non-linear, it will give a lot of trouble. 2 component system, if I give you in the exam quiz or whatever, it will take half an hour, 40 minutes. Suppose I give many terms in the equation, then it is going to take a lot more time. Of course, this is eminently, it's eminently doable by using a script file, MATLAB, or writing your own code and all that. But for the purpose of exam, you have to use calculator and pen and proceed. All right? Yeah. Is it? 366. 366.4 or something. Okay, let us solve this. Vikram, got it? Which one? Which algorithm you use? First one. How many of you use the second one? What happened? Now, what is the problem then?
The first term, the t is increasing, and because of that, the 1000 minus this thing is becoming negative.
That is the problem. Okay, so because of this, if the t increases, what is the maximum possible for this? The moment it exceeds 400, it's gone. The moment it exceeds 400, then this algorithm will struggle, na? Because it is overshooting. I mean, if you actually take the slope and other things, you can investigate mathematically, but that's not central to our discussion here. Okay, so if you solve this problem using the method of successive substitution, if you encounter a difficulty, if you get a answer which is negative or it's diverging, you are not able to proceed further, you should not say that this problem has no solution, because from the data given to you, it is so clear that there is a solution which is the problem. Immediately you should think of the other information flow diagram. What is the information flow diagram I am talking about here? Basically, whether Q convection is equal to total Q minus Q radiation, or Q radiation is equal to total Q minus Q convection. These are the 2 information flow diagrams. Okay, so here I am saying Q convection is Q total minus Q radiation. Here I am saying that Q radiation is Q total minus Q convection. It so happens that one of the 2 is not working. Okay, so when one of the information flow diagrams is not working, go to the other information flow diagram. Okay. What is 376.5? How many of you started with 350? Or why did you take 350? Reasonable. Okay, 350 appears to be reasonable. Okay, wire it cannot be at 1000 degree, 1000 Kelvin or something. Okay, 350 appears to be reasonable. So we should put Kelvin. Huh? What about this? Unit. 350, you get 376.5. What do you get? How many of you have trouble with the wire? Why is the class so silent? Venugopal, you got it? Okay. Vaibhav, got it? Vikram has got it. You, so 376.5. What is it now? This is too much, man. What is this? 700, huh? Huh? I worked it out last night, so I have the numbers. 359.1. I am allowed not to write this now because I am the teacher, but you have to, huh? So you just because I know it's not converging, huh? 359. So don't feel lazy. You have to fill up all this. Number 6 was 368.5, 364.8, 14. Okay. Did somebody proceed beyond the 14th iteration? Okay. 366.4, which is like 93 degrees Celsius. All right. When you, okay, for those people whose information flow diagram corresponding to algorithm 2 or algorithm B cupped, you please go back and substitute this 366.4 and see whether now it works. Exactly at that point it will work. Just check. It should work, right? Huh? Any other point it is a very unstable algorithm. That is the problem. It is very unstable. That is basically because if you take f of x, sorry, f of t equal to q minus total q minus q convection minus q radiation, if you take dou of f of x or d of f of x by dt, that is, if you plot that fellow is a very strong function of temperature because it is 3t cube and all that. Okay, so he is not behaving properly, he is misbehaving. That is why you are not able to. So if you want to investigate easily, you can go to MATLAB and you can investigate why it happens. You just take the first derivative. It is highly oscillatory. So you have to always guess in the right region, and it will not allow because of t to the power of 4. Once you start with, unless you start at 366.4 or 360 itself, it will swing to the right side or the left side. And if you are so sure that you have to start at 366.4, then like Swamiji, you can straight away say this is the answer. I mean, so you don't require method of successive substitution because you know everything. Okay, so that is why. Yeah, now 366.4. Did you substitute into the other one? Please check that. So while x equal to 2 sin x was a very simple problem, and we wrote the algorithm yesterday and solved. There were no issues. Now there is an issue of divergence already. So all the information flow diagrams are not the same. Some are more equal than the others. It is possible for you to get a solution with one information flow diagram, while it is perfectly possible for you not to get a solution with the other information flow diagram. In the exam, if you give a highly nonlinear problem, you start with the information flow diagram and you don't get the answer, you are unlucky. Then you have to switch over to the a priori. I don't know whether to. Otherwise, you have to take the derivative and all that. The time taken for that, you might as well start with this information flow diagram, get it and proceed to the point at which the solution diverges and turn around and say that this information flow diagram does not work. So I will have to go back to the other information flow diagram. Is it okay? So the solution is $90. Does it work? Works, right? So if you have started probably 367 or 366, maybe it worked. Maybe it would have worked. If you start with 350 or if you start with 400, it means anyway you cannot start beyond 400 because it will become negative. Okay, so these are the issues associated with this. Fine. Now we will go to a problem where we take a real fluid thermal system, namely a fan and duct system. Okay. So this is going to take about 40 minutes. We are not going to be able to solve this in today's class completely, but nevertheless we will start. So let us go to system simulation. Let us talk about some practical situation. Okay. You are designing a ducting system for a air conditioning for an auditorium or the ICSR building. Okay. You are deciding about the fan capacity. I am not talking about the chiller capacity and how many tons of refrigeration you want and all that. You want to send chilled air. Okay. You have to decide on the ducting, fan and ducting system, correct. Now it is possible for you to calculate the total length of the duct, how many bends are there, then FLV squared by 2 GD and then K FLV squared by 2 GD, you can add all this and put everything as a function of velocity or discharge and get a formula for calculating the total pressure drop. If you have the total pressure drop multiplied by the discharge, and if you know the fan efficiency, if you know the approximate efficiency, you will have an idea of how much of power is required. Okay. But for overcoming a particular head, you also will know what is the discharge corresponding to that head from the manufacturer's operating characteristics, or these are called fan curves. You must have studied in turbo machines. Now if you eventually have to design the fan and ducting system, the fan characteristics of the manufacturer have to match the load characteristics of your particular design. When these two intersect at a particular point, this is called the operating point. That means you have done the system simulation to determine the operating point. Okay. So graphically, okay, so if you consider is it like this? Correct. So this is what is this? Fan curve. What about our duct curve? Okay, so this could be meters or it could be whatever, this will be meter cube per second. So this is the operating point. So using system simulation, we want to calculate this operating point. This can be easily calculated because this is based on a formula, right? If you know the friction factor, and all this, you can calculate it. How do we get this? So this you have to get from the manufacturer's catalog or whatever. How will he have got this? So basically you have to do experiments. You will first do experiments with no discharge, zero discharge, then you will slowly increase the discharge and you will find out the head, and you will do an experiment connecting this, and so therefore you may get some points like this. But if you want to do simulation, if you just have points, it is no good for you because you want a curve, right. So you will convert all these points into an approximate, into a best fitting curve using principles of regression. That is why I said regression is very important for system simulation. But if I start teaching regression upfront before teaching a system simulation, you will see, you will think what this course is all about mathematics, and we thought we will learn design and optimization, it is only regression. So last year I first taught regression and then went to system simulation. This time I have swapped. I will teach you system simulation so that you get a feel that regression is very, very important to get this. Are you getting the point? Once you have these two curves, then you can determine the operating point. Then you have to determine the sensitivity of your operating point. For example, it is possible that with time or something there could be multiple, the fan curve can go up and down. This can also go on up and down depending upon the age and other things, and the friction factor may increase or the efficiency of the pump may decrease and so on. So you will have to study the sensitivity of the performance of the equipment or the system with respect to the change in the design operating conditions. Alright. Now shall we solve a problem on this? It is required to determine the operating point, of a fan duct system. It is required to determine the operating point of a fan duct system. The equations for the two components are duct I do not know, I will just check whether I have written 79 or 80. Okay. P is 79 plus 10.7 into Q the 1.8, Q equal to 15 minus 73 in E the minus 6 P square, where P is the static pressure in Pascal, Q is going to be the discharge, good, in units, good, meter cube per second. A, draw the information flow diagram for the above system. A, draw the information flow diagram for the above system. B, using successive substitution, determine the operating point. An important thing here is the initial guess. Of course, using common sense you can arrive at an initial guess, but since this is a classroom environment, I will give you the initial guess. You can either take P is 200 Pascal or Q is 10 meter cube per second. First draw the information flow diagram, draw two components, fan and duct, draw two rectangular boxes, something will go in, something will go out, then complete it. This is a sequential arrangement because the output of the fan becomes input to the duct and the output of the duct becomes input to the fan. Two types of information flow diagram are possible. Watch out, two types of information flow diagram are possible. Please look at the board. You can use this equation to determine P if you know Q. okay. But there is no hard and fast rule about this. I can say that q to the power of 1.8 is p minus 79 divided by 10.7, or rather q is equal to p minus 79 divided by 10.7 whole to the power of 1 by 1.8. So I could convert this. Don't think that this is on the left hand side, this is on the right hand side, I cannot do anything about it. This equation can be used, to cut a long story short, this equation can be used to calculate p given q or vice versa. By the same token, this equation need not be necessarily useful to calculate q, you can also calculate p from q depending on this. Okay, if you want to calculate p from this equation and q from this equation, that is one information flow diagram. If you want to swap, that is another information flow diagram. And since you have got nonlinear powers, one is p square, one is q to the power of 8, one of the two information flow diagrams will not, one of the information flow diagrams will not work. So let us see who is unfortunate, and in tomorrow's class, on next Thursday, Monday is a holiday, Thursday's class we will solve this problem and investigate now why one of the information flow diagrams, why is it not working, okay. So please draw the information flow diagram first, and now any guesses on how you got this q to the power of 1.8? Correct, regression, okay. Physics, what is the physics with this 1.8?
Because of the diameter, 4FL v squared.
4FL v square, diameter is fixed, no? I usually in this I am fixing the dimensions. It could be a diameter of a pipe, it could be the hydraulic mean diameter if it is a rectangular duct or a non-circular duct. What is it actually? That P is the head, right? Shall I erase this? So head so this dynamic what about this F itself? V squared multiplied by V to the power of, so what does it give? 1.8. What is this fellow doing? Static pressure, okay. So using regression you can get that. So I want you to appreciate the physics behind this equation. This equation we cannot get it from physics, somebody, the manufacturer has to do the experiments, he will give it as a in the manufacturer's catalog. It is called the fan characteristic. In turbo machinery you must have studied that, pump characteristic, blower, axial fan characteristic, blower characteristic, turbine characteristic, they have to give this. This is a fundamental experiment they have to do and give it to the user, okay. Now go ahead and first, Vikram, don't start solving. Information flow diagram started, okay, then proceed. If you have finished the information flow diagram, you can start with the solution. I will draw the information flow diagram and stop with that today's class. This problem will take half an hour for you to solve, because even if you get the right answer, I want you to take the other information flow diagram and proceed to a point at which it will cup. Alright, so now I will draw the information flow diagram. Fan, duct, yeah, please tell me. P, Q, I am using exactly in the order which was given to us in the board on the blackboard, right. That is his information flow diagram. That is, I am using the fan characteristic to determine Q given P. I am using the fan characteristics to determine Q from P, and I am using the duct characteristics to get P from this Q. So whatever at the end of the exercise, whatever P I get, I compare it with whatever P I assume to start with. If these are equal, I can go home. In general, they will not be the same. So I keep on doing this. So what goes through this is the P and the information on P and Q. This, as we proceed with the iterations, then it will stabilize. Then whatever coming out will be the same as whatever was sent in. That results in the, you will have a situation where Pi plus 1 minus Pi whole square is less than equal to something. Is that enough for this problem? What should be the stopping criteria for this problem? Yeah, come on man, it's early in the morning. You should. Huh? Yes, Raghav.
So Qi plus 1 or minus Qi should also converge over this.
So also means how do you incorporate mathematically?
And condition.
Huh?
And condition.
So and or we can do this. So sigma, that's good. Sigma Qi plus 1 we will put some 10 to the power of minus 6 so that you keep on doing, or 10 to the power of minus 4, okay, 4 you will easily get, okay. So this looks like, you think that this is not the most important part of the problem. You think that using the algorithm and getting the solution is the most important part of the problem, but this is also equally important, because in real life nobody will tell you what the stopping criterion is. It is for you to figure out, it is for you to get convinced that you have reached a level at which the solution will not change. This level of accuracy is okay, I am comfortable with this level of accuracy, because if you know what the true value is, you can compare your result with respect to the true value, and then if I get 1% close to the true value, then I am fine. But when you are doing CFD computations, when you are doing simulation, the true value is elusive, you do not know what is the true value, okay. So you are always looking at the difference between successive iterations, but this can mislead you, because it is possible for you to finally beautifully converge to a totally stupid answer. So convergence is not necessary, once you have reached convergence, it does not necessarily mean that you have got an accurate solution. Convergence means with the present numerical scheme, if you proceed for 100 more iterations, you cannot expect a significant change in the answer, but whether that answer itself is correct or not, convergence will not tell you. So you have to do additional measures, you will have to validate your solution. So you apply your numerical technique to some other solution, to some other problem for which either somebody else has done experiments or for which analytical solutions are possible. Then for that case, after you run through so many iterations, after you incorporate your stopping criterion, you get a solution which is exactly the same as what other people have reported, or an analytical solution. Then you say, for this particular problem, when I apply this stopping criterion, my solution works. Therefore when I apply to an actual problem for which I do not know what the true solution is, there is no reason why it should misbehave, okay. So we will stop here. So in the next class we will solve this problem, and then we will use both information flow diagram. This is only in one information flow diagram, I can draw the other one, and then we will go through some iterations and solve this. As is our practice, I will put it on Excel, and I will also demonstrate it with MS Excel, okay.